contact up the middle.
And back to pass. Well, he's going to throw it for the downs here in the corner. Oh, what a catch! What a touchdown, Raiders!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second edition of Raider Recap here on HCTV Sports. I'm Hunter Pinky. That's Theo Tollefson. Today we're here to recap everything from the winter season now that everything is said and done. But before we get into talking about the teams, why don't we go around the school and look at the latest news with HHS athletics?
Yeah, so the Apollo and Athena Award winners were announced during the week of February 14th, that Friday, and the two winners for Hastings were announced alongside that. The Athena Award winner was Kendall Jenkins, who has earned 9 varsity letters as a participant in both swimming and softball. In swimming, she was a 5-time all-conference captain and state meet qualifier in multiple events. Next year, Kendall plans to attend the University of Minnesota Duluth and major in exercise science and play on their softball team on an athletic scholarship.
The Apollo Award winner was John Charlton. He has lettered 9 times in his athletic career. He plays football, lacrosse, and hockey, and is also a team captain for all 3 sports. In football, he was all-conference, all-section, and team defensive MVP. In lacrosse, he was repeat all-conference and all-state. John is also an honor roll student who plans on attending the University of Maryville in Missouri to study sports management and to play on the lacrosse team down there.
The second and final piece of Raider news right now is that there's an online apparel store now available for people to reach on the Hastings ISD 200 website. So if you go under the community tab and the homepage and to go to the online school store, you can find all sorts of Raider merchandise from t-shirts, backpack, hats, and even coffee mugs. So if that is interesting to anyone who's in Raider Nation and wants to have more Raider apparel, you can just head over to the hastings.k12.mn.us website and get your Raider apparel there.
Yep. And you don't have to come to the school to pick it up. It ships straight to your home. So that'll be awesome for the community to have. So why don't we get into our first sport we'll start with the boys basketball team. Obviously, it's not the season they wanted to have, but we honestly saw flashes of good things from this team. It wasn't that bad of a team. It's just they definitely had a tough season ahead of them.
Yeah, no, there were definitely flashes in the pan of close competitive games that we were able to cover this season, but at the same time, like you said, it's just not how they hoped it would turn out. They had not that great of a record, only winning 5 games and losing 21. Overall, when you include their sectional playoffs, but in the regular season they were 5-20 overall. But a lot of those losses were close. Like one we covered against Tartan, it was a 61-53 loss, but it was very competitive towards the end.
The other game that stood out to me a lot was our opener for the boys basketball team against Park of Cottage Grove. We only lost to them by 2, and they are playing, as the day of this recording, they're playing in the section finals for 3-4A against Eastview, who Hastings lost to, unfortunately, in a single-handed showdown. But the fact that they were able to keep up with Park and only lose by 2, it shows the potential of this team.
That they had, yeah.
But like I said, I still think we saw flashes. The Tartan game was close. We saw a great game against Two Rivers. Just they couldn't get the pieces to click. The Raiders are losing
6 seniors, correct?
They're losing a few seniors, so their starting lineup will look a little different next season. They are losing Michael Mitchell, Will Hubbard, Axel Arnold, and as well as Watson. Ty Crick as well. Most of them major starters, so there'll be a new shift next season.
Yeah, and one player I think we're going to see a lot more of next season is Keelan Newton. Lily Newton's little brother, who, when he was in the starting lineup, he was tremendous. I mean, anytime we saw him out on the court, he was all out gaming and got some great 3-pointers in there. So he's definitely one of the students that fans should pay attention to over the next couple of seasons.
Yep, absolutely. I think one of the other cool things that was really awesome to see this season was in the final game against St. Thomas Academy. It was so awesome to see that they threw Brady Zach into the game, longtime team manager after. How long has he been with the team?
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
Yep.
He got his moment to shine with like 18 seconds left, drilled a 3 on his first varsity shot. It was awesome. It was cool. Carol Evan even picked it up.
Yeah, so thank them for that. And I
it was
glad to be on
cool.
the call for that.
Yeah, it was super cool to see, and we can't commend the Raiders enough, the team, for allowing him to do that.
Exactly.
That was super fun to see. So why don't we just take a look at just the conference standings where they fell,
Finished the season,
and
yeah.
then we'll also take a look at the section standings. So, Theo, why don't you get us started with the conference standings?
So yes, conference standings in the Metro East. South St. Paul dominated everyone both in the conference and overall with a 16-0 conference record and then a 28-0 record on the season, which is all the more impressive for them.
I've gotten to see them a couple times working with Town Square Television. They are legit.
Yeah.
Alonzo Dodd is a stud, and they beat St. Thomas Academy last week, and
It shows.
they're a special team, and they're going to be playing them this Thursday, the 17th, for the section title against, I believe, De La Salle.
Okay. Yeah, and the Raiders themselves were in the bottom three. They weren't the worst team in the Metro East Conference this season. That title goes to Hill Murray, who couldn't win a single game in the Metro East Conference, but were 2-25 overall. And North St. Paul were a game behind the Raiders in the conference standings and overall as well, only winning 3-13, but 4-23 overall.
So for the section, the boys ended up with the 8th seed, bottom of the conference, with that 5-22 record, 0-3 in the section. Eastview was top, 10-0 in the section, 21-6 overall. Park at number 2, 20-8 record, 3-0 in the section. That's going to be a really good section final to watch.
Oh,
and
definitely.
you can't ask for better basketball than that, and we wish both teams luck. I think I slightly root for Park in that because they are
I think we do,
neighbors,
yeah.
even though they're a former SEC rival. It would be kind of fun to see them since
Yeah,
they're our
compete.
neighbors. With that being said, even though there's a lot to pick up for next season, I'm pretty excited. We'll see how they can rebuild, come back together, and see what they can
Yeah,
do for next season.
definitely.
So why don't we move into the girls' basketball team? I think this was a pretty special team. They had a really good season. We saw a lot of competitive games, a few blowout games. You know, they single-handedly destroyed Apple Valley, and they were competitive with Simley, who's top of the conference. They were competitive with a lot of tough teams. They had that overtime win in Rochester, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, an 80-79 victory in overtime on the 29th of January, which really showed they were a team to be feared within the Metro East Conference as well, even though that was a road and non-conference game. But yeah, they had a strong season overall. Another great game they had towards the end of the season was an 86-61 victory, and I believe that was Lily Newton's 30-point game against North St. Paul on the road. So,
Speaking of which, we got to see Lily Newton's 1,000th career point versus Simley, which that was a really special moment, and I'm super happy we were able to cover that. That's special. You know, you got a good player. Minnesota State is going to have a very special player, Lily Newton.
down at Mankato State, yes.
So the Raiders will not be losing too many pieces next season. Raiders only had 2 seniors in Lily Newton and Maggie Schlottman. Obviously, Lily Newton's loss will be a little tough for the team. She was averaging over 19 points a game for the Raiders. But, like I said, Mankato is going to love having her on the team. Schlottman will also be a pretty big loss. She was averaging 6 points a game. She got hurt towards the end of the season. She collided with another player, dislocated her hip, and had a knee injury.
Yeah.
Hopefully she can get back at it pretty soon.
And like you said, they're not too many players that are being lost on these teams, but these are 2 essential players to the core of this girls basketball team for the past few years, and they're both college commits down. Well, Lily being down in Mankato, and then Maggie going to North Dakota. So it's a huge loss, and there will be some big shoes to fill for the girls who will still be on the team. But I think McVicker is one for sure that we're going to see grow into her own over the next 3 seasons. She was only a freshman, but she was still one of the top scorers behind Lily. And Emma Baker was another talent that we were able to see every game we covered, and she's going to grow into her own as well. And I think those are 2 very important names to keep in mind for what's to come.
Yeah, Keegan McVicker was second on the team with 9.5 points per game, and Emma Baker with 8.2 points per game. I also don't want to sleep on Haley Strain.
Oh, definitely not.
Haley Strain has shown
She's
her
great
flashes.
at rebounding.
I think Tuck mentioned it during the South St. Paul game. She had her Haley Strain game before, a few weeks prior to that South St. Paul game we covered. So a lot of cool things, a lot of things to be excited for next year. The other thing I want to talk about before we look at the standings too is I love the energy and the team culture Sherry McLeod is bringing. I had a brief conversation with her after or just before the St. Thomas Academy boys basketball game, and she's already putting the pieces together next season. She's talked to me and Bruce Karnick of the Journal. She expects to be here for a long time and wants these girls to know we're going to be here next 4 or 5 seasons, even longer. I said, even if we have you 4 or 5 years, it's going to be awesome to have you. And she's like, I'm going to be here longer, way longer than that, which is awesome, and we need that. There's been some coaching turnaround that obviously it's hard to instill a culture, but Sherry's done a great job of that in her first season. I love their little dance routine they do at the end of every game. It makes you celebrate the wins. It makes you have fun. If you're having fun, you're going to be playing better. You're going to win. Obviously, there has to be balance between your attitude and that, but I think they found a good balance, and I think Sherry will find that balance for teams in the future, and it'll be awesome. So why don't we move into the standings, how they landed out, and then we'll take a look at the section.
So looking at these Metro East Conference standings to finish out the year, for girls basketball, Matamita was at the top with a 14-0 conference record, but were 19-8 overall. Hastings finished 4th there with an 8-6 overall conference record. Overall, they were 15-11, still pretty impressive overall. And Simley was right ahead of them with a 10-4 conference record, but had the best overall record in the conference with 19-7, which was another impressive team that we were able to see this season.
Absolutely. I think Simley was a pretty special team. We could have won that game, but obviously a few factors, you lose control of it. But a lot of good teams in this conference. So why don't we take a look at the section? Obviously, Hastings finished with a 15-11 record, but they earned the 6th seed and were behind Bloomington Jefferson and Eastview. Bloomington Jefferson being the 4 seed, Eastview being the 5 seed. Eastview had an 8-19 record, and Bloomington Jefferson had a 10-18 record. That's been kind of the theme for a lot of these Hastings teams. They get seeded a lot lower than they should be. They should have easily been the 4th seed, no doubt about it. They shouldn't have had to play Park. Obviously, they were competitive in that Park game, so... They had Park round 1. They played on the 2nd of March. They lost 54-47. Still only a 7-point loss, but the seeding does really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I believe a 4th seed would have allowed them to host a playoff game, and there's no reason I don't think they should have had one.
Right.
Obviously, you got to deal with the hand you are dealt and overcome those challenges, but it's still one of the things you don't like to see as a Raider fan, and I hope they fix that in the future. Recently, we met up with the Alpine Ski team and talked with a few of their players to provide an update on how their season went in sections, playoffs, and overall the highlights and lowlights. So why don't we take a break and kick it over to Aaron Herbert and the Alpine Ski team.
So we had a really great season this year. I mean, we won a bunch of our invites that we went to, and we had a bunch of high finishers, top 10s for those invites. For our sections race, we had a really solid team. We had our Jackson Rents 1st place finish, and then I followed up in 2nd. And the depth of our team is amazing because, you have to have a really solid team to especially even get top 3 or 4 at sections, because it's so unusual for everybody to stand at a sections race just because, there's 120 kids there and conditions get significantly worse throughout the day just because of so many kids running through the course.
I'd say the girls team had a pretty successful season. We definitely improved a lot. We had a lot of beginning skiers on our girls team, and I think over the season we really stepped it up and improved, placing high at some of the invites. One of the things that made sections just so stressful, just like any other race, is you get one shot. You have 2 runs, and you either go too fast and you fall, or you don't push yourself hard enough and you regret it. And it makes it a stressful sport, but it is really worth it when you get to the bottom, and it really is great. To see the boys team succeed like they did, it was really great to see.
We all performed well, and it was kind of relieving to say, we all finished well, and we had 1st and 2nd place finish there, and I think in 8th place finish. And Zach, you finished what? I finished 16, 17? 16. So, I mean, that's really, really good. I mean, there was 120 skiers there. We had like 4 people in the top 20.
Like one of my personal struggles throughout the whole season was, being the next one to go, like being right in the gate and just trying to get into that mindset to go as fast as possible and just skiing fast. That's the sport.
Skiing it's kind of a weird sport. It's kind of an individual sport with a team aspect because, I mean, you don't have to like rely on your team to do well for you to do well. I mean, it's nice when your team does well, but it's like I can do well one day and then be like, I felt pretty good about that, even if your team doesn't do so well.
The team is obviously still there, low. Like, we support each other just like any other team, like giving each other pointers, helping each other out, cheering each other on. It really, even though you are individually competing, it still feels like a team, and you still place as a team and as an individual.
Fortunately, our boys team, when we went to state, we kind of fell apart a little bit, but I mean, that ski racing, it's a fickle sport, so.
State was really fun. It was a blast. We didn't do the greatest at state, but it was just really an honor to go there. And people talk about how fun the races and practices are, but I have honestly the most fun when I'm not on the snow with my teammates, in the locker room, in the hotels, and just bonding, just playing games, making jokes.
Like, I remember at the Afton invite, it was us in Stillwater just goofing around for a while, It's not like we hate each other, it's just the friendly competition aspect,
A lot of us know each other outside of the racing. Like, I'm friends with a couple kids on the Stillwater team, a couple kids on the park team. I mean, we all know each other because we've been racing forever, and we just kind of get to know your competition.
At the invites, all the food that's available, all that stuff, a lot of that is parents, and a lot of the parents don't get recognized. So a huge thanks to all of them, all the volunteering they do. They really help make the whole season possible, and all the coaches.
With basketball and football, you have refs that are there. Those people that are at the races, gatekeeping and, doing stuff at the bottom, writing times down as parents as well. So thanks for being there and having the season run smoothly, because we couldn't do it without parents.
I want to give a shout out to our booster club. They provided a lot of our timing equipment, our jackets, and those are all free to us that we can use, and it's kind of important to have them because, we get a lot of funding from the school, but a lot of the time it's not enough because skiing is pretty expensive and lift tickets are expensive. So, I don't think it would be possible without our booster club.
I just still really want to thank the ski team for joining us. It's not my most well-versed sport, so I think it's better to hear it straight from the team rather than us two guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Than try to make something up. So we really appreciate it. So now why don't we shift over to some wrestling action? Hastings Raiders had a really strong wrestling season. It didn't end the way they had hoped for, but I still think they have something to be very proud of. We saw them on February 10th against Park and Matamidi. They honestly kind of clean sweep the joint. We also saw them for a duel against Simley, which was insane. The environment, the crowd, they were really into it. It was neck and neck all the way through. It came down to just one pin being the difference. They only lost 30-35 in that one. And at the time, I think Simley was ranked number 9 in the nation. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty incredible. And at state, they had a clean sweep run. I was talking with Town Square Television, and they were like, yeah, they just kind of pile drived everyone in, and they had really no competition. They were set up right next to us. So why don't you take a look at the Metro East Conference and how the regular season ended for them?
Yeah, as you've already been mentioning, Simley just clean swept everyone. They didn't lose a single match this entire season. They were 27-0 overall, 7-0 in the conference, and Hastings was 6-1 in the Metro East Conference, and of course their one loss falling to Simley, as many expect. But like you said, that was extremely close match and very competitive, and had the Simley wrestlers shaking in their boots like, oh man, we might not have our perfect run. And Hastings did finish 31-4 overall, and right behind them were St. Thomas Academy, the only other team with more than 3 wins above 500 this season in the Metro East Conference at 10-10 overall and 5-2. So
the other notable stat in that conference is South St. Paul. Just take a mention to mention them. They're in a tough section. They're in Simley section, so their record is 23-10. Not that bad, but they're stuck in the section with Simley. So that is very tough for them to get out of. But it's nice to see Hastings at the top of the Metro East. So now why don't we take a look at the section, how they landed. Hastings landed on top with that 31-4 record. St. Thomas right behind them. Then Park of Cottage Grove right behind them with a 10-13 overall record and a 6-2 in the section, which is a little curious. St. Thomas had a little better record in the section and was still seated higher, but that could also be a strength of schedule argument. Hastings had a first-round bye in the sections. They won their first round easy, and then they beat Woodbury in the section finals to punch their ticket to state. And we were fortunate enough to travel to the XL Center and cover state. It was a really cool experience being in that venue. Always super loud, lots of wrestling fans. It was super cool. Hastings took on Anoka in the first rounds of the state quarterfinals for Class 3 AAA. Fortunately, they lost that one. A few of their duels they were favored. They couldn't win. Got knocked down into the consolation bracket. Beat Apple Valley. We saw one of the longest individual matches. I think blood time got called for over 3 or 4 minutes, just stopping intermittently. Kyle and Mitch Sheeman, the announcers, will tell you how abnormal that was. But it didn't disrupt Rico. Rico still got the win. They beat Apple Valley still by a score of 36-20. And then they went on to the Consolation Championship and unfortunately lost to Northfield. A pretty heartbreaking way to end. A penalty was called in Austin LaFleur's match for headbutting and resulted in an injury. And fortunately, that just made the win unobtainable because Blake Clemens got the pin in the final duel to get it 33-36, but they couldn't overcome that, unfortunately. But a 6th place state finish isn't too bad. They're not losing a lot of key guys. A lot of our state tournament guys are young guys. They had 11 out of 14, I believe. I know they had 11 individual state qualifiers on their team, which is fantastic. There's a lot of depth, and a lot of those guys will be returning this year. But speaking of individuals, too, we had a couple of state champions for the individuals. Skylar Little Soldier at 132 took the first ever female state tournament bracket, which is incredible to see. Congrats, Skylar. She's an awesome wrestler, ranked in the nation. Can't be more proud of her. And then Blake Beisel won at 106 as well, making Raider Nation proud. We are glad to be able to cover you and congratulate you on your success.
Yeah, absolutely. And also want to mention Alicia Brown, the only girl senior wrestler who got a 3rd place finish at 126, which is still very impressive to just jump into the wrestling season kind of late, as she mentioned in the news package I did. She was a late arrival, but still to just do that in your final year of high school and come out in 3rd place and pretty much help set a standard of what girls wrestling could be for Hastings over the next few years or decade even, especially with Skylar Little Soldier leading the way going into next year.
But also want to highlight Rico Cooper. He also earned 6th place at an individual state at 182. Solid placing finish. He got on the podium. Awesome to see. Honestly, I know it's not how the season wanted to end for the team-wise, but there's a lot to look forward with only losing a handful of seniors. This team's going to be a top team in the state. The handful of wrestlers the Raiders will be losing this senior. Wrestling at 160, Xander Hallis, he'll be gone. He participated in the team state tournament. It's fun to watch him. They'll also lose 195. Dylan Bart, who actually got some state tournament participation. We saw him in the round against Anoka. Did pretty well, unfortunately lost, but it's super cool to see seniors getting those big moments. And then we will also be losing at 182, Tyler Miller. Otherwise, a lot of these players will be returning. Rico Cooper will be a senior, but he'll be back. Austin LaFleur will be back. Blake Clemens is back. Vanderhoff is back. And then honestly, a lot of the lower weights are, the oldest one is sophomore. So a lot of these guys will be back next year, and we're going to be a powerhouse. So
Definitely. And don't forget to mention that Alicia Brown is also going to be graduating from the girls
absolutely.
wrestling side, so
I'm sorry, Alicia, I forgot your name, but
it's all right.
nice job at the state tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So
I also want to thank Kyle Kreiser and Mitch Sheeman for tagging along with us. We really appreciate it. You guys are fantastic at calling wrestling, duels, meets, tries, everything. We couldn't do it without you. We need you guys. I haven't heard a pair of announcers like that for wrestling that good in a long time. So I want to thank you one more time for that. And hopefully they'll be back next season. So
I would think so, yes.
So now why don't we move into the girls hockey team? Obviously it was kind of a down season, not what you want, but we saw flashes as well of them being a pretty good team. There's some players that stood out on the team too. Lauren Hubbard had 7 goals, Kyra Erickson, Jade Schauer, Kiki Redant. All those players were pretty good for the Raiders this season and are
Every game we
pieces.
covered, those 4 especially were essential to each game, and they were able to contribute fairly well even in those shutout losses that happened throughout the season. So overall, the Hastings girls hockey team was 8-18, and they had a 2-9 conference record, so they were towards the bottom there, just a little bit above Matamidi, who were 1-11 in the conference, and then 3-22 overall. But like you said, we covered a really good game against them. Matamidi, that was a 6-2 victory that the Raiders girls team were able to pull off. So, and one of the other games, even though it was a shutout loss that we covered, was against South St. Paul, that 3-0 game. There were still some good flash in the pan moments where those 4 were definitely carrying the team to keep in the game. So
Looking at their schedule too, when they rematched against South St. Paul, it was pretty close, 2-0, and South St. Paul is obviously, they made it to the state tournament and got to play at the X.
Yeah.
So the fact they kept that one close is a good sign, and obviously they had their matchups where they kind of destroyed against St. Paul, 2 Rivers. That was pretty in favor of the Raiders. That offensive explosion was awesome. Also, Steinke was incredible in that game. The Raiders are losing a few seniors. They will have Schauer back next year, and they will also for sure have Redant back next year, which is good. They'll be losing Nicole Vanderhayden back in goal. She did most of the work. Little high of a goal allowed average of 3.91, but they will also retain Steinke next season, and she had a goals allowed average just about 3, I think at 3.03 if I'm not mistaken. In the games we saw her in, she looked pretty incredible, and I think if she's going to be the goalie for next season, the Raiders are in pretty safe hands. Girls hockey team will be losing some seniors.
just 6 of them: Maddie Daly, Ashlyn Endress, Eileen Zarubo, Lauren Scove, Lauren Hubbard, and Nicole Vanderhayden. So a good number of seniors who will be leaving the team. That definitely left an impact on the squad this year, but there will definitely be players who will step up and fill those roles in for them.
So now why don't we take a look at the section standings for the girls hockey team. Obviously, it's not what you want to see. They got the 7th seed, so not bottom. Parker Cottage Grove was at the bottom. Both teams had an 8-18 record. Only difference is their section record. Hastings had a 1-4 section record, and Park had an 0-6 section record. So Hastings was forced to take on Cretin-Durham Hall in the Section 3 AA quarterfinals, and they lost 7-1, which is a tough, heartbreaking season. It's not what you want, but I also do think there are still some key players that will be around for next season, and I look forward to seeing what the girls do. It'll be under a new head coach. We believe Tim Duggan stepped down after the season, which is unfortunate, but we wish him nothing but the best. So it'll be interesting to see what the culture shift will be, what the new coach brings to the table, and how we can turn around this hockey program a little bit.
Yeah.
But so now why don't we move into the boys hockey team, which it was a really special season, I think. This team was good. Obviously, Matt Klein leaving off from where Adam Welch left off and put pedal to the metal and got this team on a hot streak. We mentioned it before, but ever since the Premier Tournament, the boys were on fire, and even before then, they're playing extremely well.
Yeah.
I think they only lost twice since that Premier Tournament, and both of them were really tough games against really good teams in the state.
Yeah, and those were crucial games, going into the end of the season. The first against Champlain Park, which is one of the top teams in the state, but didn't make it that far into the state tournament, as we know by now. But Hastings still had that 15-game winning streak from December 22nd up until that Champlain Park game. Finished the season with a 21-5-1 overall record, which was honestly the second best in the Metro East Conference behind Hill Mary, which, of course, they made it far into the high school state tournament with their 25-5-1 record and 9-0 in the Metro East Conference. And Hastings was 5-2-1 overall there.
Moving into sections, Hastings was seeded number 3 in Section 1 AA under Lakeville South and Lakeville North. Obviously, the Lakeville North game we covered in the regular season was huge for playoff seeding. If Hastings would have won that, they would have gotten the number 2 seed, but honestly, it wouldn't have made a difference in their bracket. They played Owatonna in the first round and honestly kind of wiped the floor there.
Yep.
They played on
6-0
fire. 6-0 win over them. We had that for you on TV. Awesome game to watch. And then obviously they had the bracket demon, if you will, Lakeville North, and they fell in the semifinals 3-2 in overtime. Honestly, you can't ask for a better playoff matchup, though. They, in regular season, like we said before, they lost with 8 seconds left, 5-4, and but it comes to show how good this team is. The foundation is there. There is depth. Even though Hastings is losing a lot of seniors, the depth is there for this team.
Yeah, and I think one prime example of that is the younger brother of senior John Charlton, who we've already mentioned in the show, Luke Charlton. He's only a 10th grader still, and we still saw a lot of playing time from him when he was out on the ice, and he was really impressive. So, I mean, like we said, though, there's a good number of seniors that are leaving. Just notable ones, of course, Stoffel and Harris, but there's also Luke Savage, Jackson Sweeney, Colin Stewart, Ben Zaccardi, Steven Reifenberger, Jack Nicklay, River McDowell is another one, and Holden Richardson, the goalie. John Charlton already mentioned as well. So yeah, a good number of the team is going, but there was a lot of depth that this team had that they were able to transition very well on and off the ice with all of their 3 different lineups that they would usually put out there. So I think there will be, I don't know if they'll have a season next year like they did this season, but they're still going to be a force to reckon with within the Metro East Conference.
Absolutely, and I still think they can make a push for next year. I do want to highlight too Connor Stoffel and Jake Harris. Both of those kids were electric this season. Connor Stoffel had 30 goals this season. Jake Harris 24, and I believe last time we talked about them, they were tied dead even at the previous Raider recap. Obviously, Stoffel kind of got the lead on there, but also fun fact: Jake Harris had his 100th career point this season as well, which is pretty dang special if you do say so myself. And also, I do want to highlight the goalies. The goalies were pretty special this season.
They were great.
Like, obviously, a lot of teams just have a primary goalie. They ride most of the way through, but Hastings had 2 goalies they could rely on all the way through. And like we said before, they only allowed 3 or more goals after that premier tournament twice.
And that 15-game winning streak, there was never a time where they allowed more than 3 goals until they played Champlain Park. And the last time they did that before was their game against St. Thomas Academy on December 16th, so right before that winning streak took off, and that was a 7-1 loss. So after that, that's still pretty impressive. And in their losses, after the winning streak, the most they gave up was Lakeville North, 5 goals, and that last one in that game was at that 8-second mark. So that was such a turnaround for them after that St. Thomas game, and like a show of they definitely, in our opinions, of course, deserve to have a chance to go for the state tournament, but obviously there was the Lakeville teams, but neither of them really made it far into it. So there's a little comfort in knowing that who they lost to didn't take the championship away from them. So I think that was one benefit towards the end of the year.
So going back to the goalies, just to wrap things up, Holden Richardson had a goals allowed average of 2.08 and a .910 save percentage, while Niederkorn had a goals allowed average of 1.97 and .909 save percentage, which is incredible for a goalie duo. Niederkorn will be back next season as he's only a junior, so I imagine he'll take up the reps, unless he obviously for some reason doesn't want to play. But I think we're in safe hands with Niederkorn. Richardson is graduating this year, which it's been awesome to see the season he had. And fun fact, he's also an ECHO student, so I get to interact with him a little bit since I helped teach the class. Awesome kid, great character. It's cool to see him learning video. So I think that'll do it for us here on Raider Recap. We just want to take a minute to thank all the senior players we got to watch this season. We wish you nothing but the best. You are all fantastic, and wish you luck in your next endeavors. And hopefully if you're doing some spring sports, we look forward to covering you.
Yeah.
We'll have our spring schedule dropping soon-ish, so stay tuned on our social media for that. We also are looking for feedback, so just comment on YouTube, Facebook, let us know what we can do better, and just let us know what you think of the episode.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously we'll be back soon for a spring sports preview and might be doing that once the season's already kicked off, so do stay tuned for that.
Yep, so next Raider Recap will either be shortly into the season for spring sports or at the beginning. Stay tuned for that. We'll keep you in the loop. So for now, I'm Hunter, that is Theo, and we will say so long.
Yep, see you
ya.
next time.